Welcome everyone to Keep It Classy Tech, and in this video I want to talk about why some people will say that OLED TVs or maybe even just HDR or Dolby Vision looks too dim. Also, to distinguish the differences in what brightness means when people talk about a TV being brighter or not being brighter.
Welcome to another video. Before we get into the video, guys, I just want to make something clear real quick before I break down this video. Alright, I thought I cleared all this up in my last video on OLED bias, but some of you are sending me links to this dude's video. I have seen the video, guys. Alright, I've seen the video. Alright, I didn't do a direct response to this video because I didn't really see the point in doing that, but because y'all guys send me links to the video, I did watch the whole video. Man, people just gotta stop making stuff up, man. You know, people just gotta stop making stuff up. Alright, first off, I have never ever said I hated OLEDs. Alright, not even once. I've never even said that OLEDs were bad TVs. I've actually encouraged people, if they've never owned an OLED, to buy one, so you can see what it's all about, so you can get it out of your system. Alright, the purpose of my video of why I prefer QLEDs, right, has nothing to do with hating OLED. The problem is, when you prefer QLED, people think you're some kind of subhuman, right? They think that, you know, you must don't understand the greatness of the OLED. I understand OLEDs very well because I've owned several. All right, I've owned several OLEDs. All right, a lot of y'all got your OLED cherry popped. You know, it's new to you. I get it. All right, if you've never owned an OLED, buy one. You will be amazed. You're gonna watch every movie on the OLED. You're gonna watch everything over again on the OLED. I've been there and done that. All right, I got a PS5 and an Xbox Series X right there, you know, but my PS5 unfortunately is collecting dust. I prefer to play on the Xbox. You know, I'm in a privileged position to be able to say that, even though I know a lot of people out there wish they had a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. After having both of them for a long time, I could seriously say I play more on the Xbox. All right, I'll do a video on that later, but the point is, all right, after owning both technologies, right, for a very long time, guys, I prefer QLEDs. And there's nothing wrong with preferring QLEDs. I never said that OLEDs were bad. I said that I prefer QLEDs. I personally prefer QLEDs, and I'm showing everybody why. Now, the reason that people are so triggered by my own personal preference is because of their OLED bias. They're sitting up here making up excuses for these OLEDs, and there are limitations to owning OLED, all right? And these limitations, I'm just showing you guys what they are. Never said it was a bad TV, all right? I enjoy movies on my projector. You see this right here? This is my big boy screen, all right? I got this TV in here, but this is what I watch movies on, guys. That screen right back there. All right, so, I mean, I've owned just about every type of technology that you could think of, especially when it comes to home theater. All right, and my preference is definitely projectors for size and scale and giving you that immersion. But as far as HDR is concerned, all right, as far as HDR is concerned, the QLED is going to be the better TV. All right, so before we get into the video, all right, all y'all that's in y'all feelings, all y'all that's in the comment section trying to create all this beef between YouTubers and all that type of stuff, look, man, I don't get into any of that goofy stuff. We grown men, all right? My analytics say that most of the people that watch my videos are in between the ages of 34 and maybe 44. So I'm thinking I'm dealing with mostly grown men here. So, you know, when I'm giving y'all information, I'm just giving it to you, keeping it a buck. I don't care about all this other stuff, man. You know, I do this truly as a hobby, man, just to help y'all out. I'm sharing my 16 going on 17 years of home theater knowledge with you guys. All right. And whether you buy a Qled, buy a Oled, at the end of the day, it's your decision. But people aren't telling you everything about these TVs, man. They're not. I don't have any kind of agenda. I don't have any affiliate links. People that have affiliate links, it's fine that they have them. I don't. All right. I have nothing to gain by giving you information. Take it or leave it. But people got to stop making up stuff on YouTube, man. You just can't come out here and just make up stuff to fit whatever you want it to fit, man. Facts are facts and opinions are opinions. And in this video, man, we're going to get into it. All right.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Alright, here's a scene I paused on Our Planet. This is in Dolby Vision. And it's fairly white, a lot of snow. And even still, it's only measuring at 83 nits. Now why is that? Well, because HDR and Dolby Vision, most of the scene that you're seeing falls in that SDR space range. It's only in specific, very bright highlights. Let me bring up the pointer. So like if you were to look over in this section, it's going to pull up the menu, but those little bright dots right there. So if I get rid of the pointer, those little bright dots underneath where it shows the picture mode, like that, I'm sure if I could measure something that small, is going to be brighter. Those are HDR highlights. So with HDR, you have still your main scene that falls in that SDR range, and then you have your highlights, which are brighter.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
But just because your TV is capable of 700, 800, 1000, 1500, whatever nits at a 10% window in a synthetic setting, you're never going to get that in a real content scenario.
What? I'm out, man.
All right, guys. So first off, this is the stuff I be talking about when people just be on YouTube just making up stuff. All right. SDR and HDR are two totally different things. Two totally different things. All right. You have SDR and you have HDR. You don't have HDR and then a part of the HDR is SDR and the only part that's HDR is highlights. No, you either have HDR or you have SDR. All right. And everybody that's got this little disc right here, including the person that made the video, has the same disc because they use it in their videos. So let's see what Spears and Munsell says about HDR and SDR, because he actually has a HDR, SDR butterfly on the disc. All right. So we have the LGCX on the right and the Vizio on the left. We're going to see what Spears and Munsell says about HDR and SDR. All right. Let's just play the demo material. So on the right side of the screen is representative of SDR. And on the left side of the screen is representative of HDR. So explain to me what side of that HDR screen is SDR. And how are you going to talk about in HDR, this part of the screen is SDR. And the only thing that's HDR is the little tiny highlights. I mean, how do you come up with this stuff? Even on the OLED, it doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to somebody that doesn't know any better. And this demo is on the disc. So tell me how you associate SDR with HDR. Tell me how that makes any sense. And as you can see, right, even on the OLED, the HDR is brighter than the SDR version. Full screen, not just little tiny highlights.
Alright, now this is HDR, and it's a bright outdoorsy scene from the Grand Tour on Amazon. So right now it's in cinema mode. Let me just double check what settings are turned on here. So tone mapping is off. And then if I go to cinema home, I'm going to turn tone mapping on, and then they should be the same other than the tone mapping. So here, cinema home with the tone mapping on. It's measuring 270 nits on the roof of that car. This is a very bright image that I'm looking at right now. The average picture level is very bright, but yet we're still only measuring 270 nits. So when people use the word brightness, my question is, what do you mean? Do you mean the overall brightness of the entire image like this, being very, very bright, being overly bright, brighter than it's supposed to be? Do you mean what the max brightness the TV is capable of in a measurement? And there's a very long discussion to be had about measurements, why they are almost useless, and at least until a better standard can be created of how to actually measure brightness.
Oh!
But maybe we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of this. So again, here if I go to cinema mode, this is how it was shot, this is how it looked, this is what the creator was seeing when they shot this. This is how it should look.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop your fucking lying.
See, this is what I'm talking about. People making up stuff. So you telling me 270 nit highlight is HDR? That's not even HDR, my G. And I don't know how you conjuring this stuff up, man. You're only measuring what your OLED is capable of. But that's not what the creators intended that to look like. The HDR is supposed to make things look more real life. Like when I walk outside and I look outside and it's bright, that scene you showed, they was actually outside with real sunlight. And it was much brighter than your OLED is showing. HDR, the high dynamic range, the brightness is what makes it look real. So what I'm trying to figure out, when you talk about creators' intent, that's what it was supposed to look like. I mean, do you work at Paramount Pictures? I mean, you work for Netflix, the directors? I mean, you speak about it like you know for a fact that that's what the director's intent is. That's the creator's intent. I mean, you work for Sony Pictures? I don't think so. But when it comes to HDR, there is an actual basis of a standard. All right? I went over this in another video, but I'm going to go over it briefly again for those of y'all that are new here. Because according to the UHD Alliance, right? The UHD Alliance, right? In April 2016, the UHD Alliance, an industry group made up of companies like Samsung, LG, who makes your TV, right? Sony, Panasonic, Dolby, and many others, announced the Ultra HD Premium certification for UHD Blu-ray players. This benchmark set some baseline goals for HDR, such as the ability to display up to 1,000 nits of peak brightness and a minimum of 10-bit color depth. So you're telling me your 270 nit highlight is HDR, when a baseline goal for HDR is the ability to display up to 1,000 nits. The best HDR TV models will not only meet these standards, but exceed them With support for more than one major HDR technology, as technology moves forward, we're seeing TVs exceed those initial standards by leaps and bounds, right? Right? Standard dynamic range TVs generally produce 300 to 500 nits, but in general, HDR TVs aim much higher. Some top tier models can display upwards of 2,000 nits of peak brightness for HDR highlights. This is the UHD Alliance by the industry, the people who actually make the movies. So how you figure 270 nits, that's what the creator intended. Why do y'all just make shit up? I mean, I understand, bro. You gotta, you love OLED, but you can't make that OLED fit everything, bro. OLEDs are cool, man, but you can't be going around talking about this is what the creator intended. How you know that? There's a lot of information out here on HDR, man, and OLED TVs cannot properly display HDR. It's a known thing. So why are you guys out here just making up stuff?
Stop it. Get some help.
Is it your OLED bias? You know, HD TV Test, he actually had a series of videos, right, where he was showing 4K Blu-rays that actually display real HDR, right? Real HDR. I'm a cinephile, videophile, audiophile, man. I got roughly over 100 4K Blu-rays, man. And they have this certification on the disc, right? The Ultra HD Premium certification. It's on the disc. So that means that there is a standard.
All right, guys, let me get this in focus. So I just grabbed a few of these off of my shelf. I am a collector. Some of these I haven't even opened, like this Matrix trilogy right here, but this is what I do, guys. But when I'm shopping for 4K Blu-rays, let's get this in focus. All right, that's what I'm looking for right there. Now, they're not on everything, but I know if it has this certification, there's at least 1,000 nits of brightness coming off of this disc. All right, that's just the Matrix. We're gonna go with the Game of Thrones. Let's see. All right, you can see it right there on the corner, guys. If I can get this in focus with this camera. Either way, you guys can see what it is. All right, it's right there on the corner. There's the logo, guys. Mad Max. Same deal. All right, same deal. Greatest Showman. Right there. All right. There is a standard, my G. You think they're just certifying these movies? They're just certifying them. They're just stamping this on here for no reason. That is not what they're doing, my guy. See that right there? Ultra HD Premium. I mean, I can just go on and on with the movies. This is the Transformers collection right here. It's there, guys. Straight up. We're not playing any games with this, man. So it just gets me tight, man, when people just be on here just making up stuff, man. All right? Ultra HD Premium. The Hulk. Let's get into it. Ultra HD Premium. All right? The Bond movies. The Bond movies. All right, let's get into it. Y'all get the point, man. Y'all definitely get the point. It is on here, guys. Right there.
And the baseline goal for HDR, just on a baseline, at least 1,000 nits of peak brightness and a minimum of 10-bit color.
Hello everyone, Vincent here from HDTV Test here. Today, we are going to analyze the 4K Blu-ray of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So let's start off with the beginning, and in the opening scene, you can see here that when the spaceship is actually traveling across the ocean, the sun and also the reflections of the wave hit or even exceeded 1000 nits. It is an extremely good start in terms of the peak brightness and the HDR presentation on the part of Rogue One. And next we go into the sequence where a very young Jean is running into her home to warn her parents, and here you can see that various lights in the house is lit in a very impressive, very impactful brightness, exceeding 1000 nits and even occasionally reaching 1200 nits, 1400 nits. And next we go to another scene where I specifically wanted to check how bright the sun gets, and as the spacecraft flew past, you can see that the sun here exceeded 1000 nits. And then in the next sequence, we can see in the city of Jeddah the reflections of the buildings and also the spacecrafts exceeded 1000 nits quite easily, giving that sort of sparkle, that sort of pristine three-dimensional depth and pop to the entire presentation. And then we go into the next scene where Death Star is in action. So when the Death Star laser is being fired and the explosions ensued, we can again see it easily exceeding 1000 nits. And then in the final sequence where these characters are waiting for the expanding explosion to reach them again from Death Star firing, you can see that the expanding explosion reached about 1200 nits, again full screen, so it looked extremely impressive on the Canon DPV 3120, which is capable of 2000 nits full screen, and probably less so on most OLEDs, because most OLEDs generally have full screen brightness that is capped to around 150 nits because of ABL or automatic brightness limiter. The 4K Blu-ray of The Two Towers has a fantastic use of HDR, occasionally even exceeding 2000 nits when Gandalf the White revealed himself to the Shree Hunters again. The brightness actually is quite consistent at around 1000 nits and occasionally even exceeding it, probably close to 2000 nits, and it really gives the fantastic HDR impact that we've come to expect from such a fabulous scene. And then if we go to the next sequence after Gandalf has defeated Balrog, as the camera zooms in on his eye, the glint of his pupil reached around 1200 nits, and as the sequence faded to white, it reached around 900 nits. Next, what we are going to do is to go to another portion of the film where you can see Gollum fetching some wild delicacies to Frodo, and the sun rays coming through the leaves exceeded 1000 nits. And another interesting segment that I wanted to analyze was obviously the battle at Helm's Deep, and the colorist or the production team kept the peak brightness at around 500 nits, including the flame torches, until the lightning flashes, and you can see it being really bright, reaching even close to 2000 nits to give that sort of impact that HDR is meant to bring. And finally, we turn our attention to the scene where Gandalf leads a charge down Helm's Deep, and the blinding sun rays reach around 2000 nits and even beyond when you take into account the specular highlight reflections of the horses and the spears and the weapons and stuff, even reaching maybe 3500 nits, giving that sort of tremendous immersion and realism that is simply beyond what SDR can offer. Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. In this video, we're going to analyze the 4K Blu-ray of Wonder Woman in terms of the HDR presentation. The HDR is really cranked up a notch. It is as if the colorist just said, sort it, I'm just going to go to town here, I'm going to turn it up to 11. And you can see here that the fire surrounding the villain here, they reached around 1700 nits and even above 2000 nits. And then in another shot here, it is very, very brief that there are some elements that actually exceeded 3000 nits. And in the final act here, you can see that the lightning reached around 1200 nits. And certainly the whole HDR presentation in the final act is extremely impressive. It actually even exceeded any capabilities of any OLED TVs in terms of the average picture level, because OLED is only capable of 150 nits full fill because of ABL or automatic brightness limiter. But you can see that this scene here, with all the fire around, it consistently exceeded 1000 nits. So this sequence here would look best on a high nit full array local dimming LED LCD television.
So here, it's in my home with the tone mapping on. It's measuring 270 nits on the roof of that car. This is a very bright image that I'm looking at right now. The average picture level is very bright, but yet we're still only measuring 270 nits. This is how it was shot, this is how it looked, this is what the creator was seeing when they shot this. This is how it should look.
Stop it. Get some help.